Welcome to the Wake Up Call for the Soul podcast with Bill and Claire, where we go deep and wide on subjects intended to support our awakening to greater truth, beauty, goodness, freedom, joy, peace, harmony, and love. In this episode, we continue our conversation about the human tendency to desire certainty. So we have all this stuff in the human condition, in the fabricated world of human invention, these things that people are absolutely convinced they are real, that they have always been, and that they are, and that they will always be. The more I go along my own individual and unique path, even as I do have the ability to attach certain labels to it, I also find that I'm not very interested in doing that because I'm a unique being. And in my own way, I am still exploring. I have rock solid spiritual practice. I have relationships. I'm connected to communities. There are all these aspects of my journey that are very helpful and meaningful and supportive to me. I understand because of the journey I've been on that it is my journey, that no one else can do it for me. No one else can even necessarily exactly quite understand it because they're not me, even as there are these lovely connections and unities and harmonies that exist throughout all of consciousness, throughout the universe, that I am on a journey where I do not know the end. My hope is that there is no end to it. That would be the most depressing thing of all. You're on this journey and you think, oh, to infinity and beyond, Buzz Lightyear, spirituality, and oops, oh, there's a wall. Okay, I guess we're done here. I can't imagine a more dismal thought than thinking that there's some limit, just some place where you can go and it's like, okay, here and no further. There's nope, nothing to see here beyond this wall that you've just encountered. That's it. You've hit the ceiling, the wall. So that is a significant part of my own hope is that I deeply desire to be on a forever or eternal journey and not one where I bump up against some kind of spiritual ceiling where it's like, okay, yep, nothing to see here. Turn around, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man.
And I think in my journey, there were places earlier on where I did run into kind of the walls or the dead ends. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think in terms of this pathway, this is all there is. There was a time when I thought that was the way. Whatever rabbit hole I was going down, I'm like, well, this is the way for me right now, and I'm going to explore it. But once I got to the end of it, and I was like, wait a second, if I keep going, this is all I get. No, that's not going to work. So then I would change directions in my own spiritual explorer kind of way. I'm coming up against a limitation here that is not feeling fun or light or enjoyable. So I'm going to pick another direction and see if that gives me hope of this more limitless and more liberating kind of journey than what was available to me. I encounter people who express religious ideas that are part of the dogma and the orthodoxy of their religious perspective. They'll say things like, this thing is just literally impossible because of what we believe. I find that such a dismal approach. And they seem okay saying this. I think because the idea of this limitation gives them comfort, whereas for me, it just kind of horrifies me, where they express this limitation. I'm like, well, but what's the fun in that? Like you've just created this huge wall that based on my own experience, doesn't even exist, and you seem happy about it. What is going on here? I'm just like, oh my gosh. And they say it with such authority, with such certainty, a la this idea of survival kind of thing. And I think again, it's like this barrier or this boundary that they've come up with saying that this is just impossible. Because that's impossible, then I know where this ends, and I have a certain feeling of security and safety and comfort with it because, again, I feel like I can predict what can and can't happen. Because if these impossible things are possible, which my experience so far is telling me that most of the things people have told me are impossible are actually not impossible. If these things are actually possible, then what it means is that what we what we tell ourselves in terms of who we think we are and what we think is actually going on in the world, in our lives, in the cosmos, that kind of idea is really destabilizing for people whose identities are based on ideas of limitation and lack. What is impossible, either for me or for everyone? What is real for me and for everyone, without having the openness to say there are possibly aspects of reality that I am not perceiving right now. I feel like I'm talking a lot.
No, 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 no. That's okay. I think in terms of these like limits that people seem comfortable with, I think there's also the aspect of like the rules and telling you like how to do things, how to connect spiritually. And I think that is part of where I'm stuck because I feel like, okay, I don't feel like I'm really moving forward here. And then I think, okay, well, I don't really know what I need to be doing. And, someone might go to a leader in their religious community and get advice, whereas I kind of feel like I'm just stuck and that there's not really someone to consult with.
Mhm.
Um, and I know like that's part of where I'm at, I would say.
And right, in that sense, it's like this gift that says, okay, I'm obviously not connecting with something, whether it's within myself or outside of myself. Shoot, in the unified nature of reality, these distinctions become less meaningful, but we do have individual selves. So it's like this clue or this gift to me that kind of says something needs to change. I need to make a change or a shift. And the thing is that the typical mode is I'm going to go to some type of authority, someone who can help me through this. And I think everyone, I think in those situations typically means well, but what kinds of questions are you asking yourself as you kind of contemplate this spiritual fogginess, this stuckness, this sense? What are the questions that are coming up for you?
Mm. I think one of them is why is this happening?
Mm,
And wondering if I have done something to get stuck. And I don't know if it's fair to even say that I'm stuck.
mm, mhm,
Um,
mhm,
I think that, yeah, the questioning why it's even happening, and then just kind of wondering if I'm even developing, because it kind of feels like I'm just turning my wheels in the mud.
mm,
Um,
mhm,
those are some questions. I'm trying to think if
mhm,
there's anything else
mhm.
that's really coming up for me.
Are you open to the possibility that your feeling of stuckness is related to your own internal sense that you are on a progressive journey, that you desire to change and to grow and to develop? Is that fair?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So then wondering if you've done something to get stuck. To me, the obvious thing is that, yeah, you're stuck because you desire to grow and change and develop. And yet there are parts or aspects of yourself. And again, I typically associate these with our good material minds because again, they're trying to protect us. They're like, dude, a little bit of change is okay as long as I think I can control it. But big change or like you having a sense that you're a different person from who you thought you were, these kinds of things are super threatening to your material mind. But it's doing the best it can. It's scared. It's trying to keep you alive. It's trying to give you a sense of continuity and safety and certainty and all these things. The fact is, deep down, you want to grow. You are growing and you now are bumping up against the programs, the limitations, the things that you have taken on because that was what was made available to you when you were a fetus in your mother's womb, when you were growing up as a child. We all do this. We take on these things to keep ourselves safe. I call them safety protocols or defense systems, things where it's like we kind of experience the jabs and the slings and the arrows of the human condition. And we have asked our material minds to say, will you please keep me safe? Will you give me a sense of safety and security? These are the things that are available. I've picked them up from other people psychically or through modeling. I didn't even know I was doing it. The fact that you're feeling this way is the exact evidence that you are growing and developing. You wouldn't feel this way if you weren't. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
because you wouldn't feel stuck because there are people who they kind of accept where they're at. They might resist it, but they just kind of say, well, this is as good as it gets. I can't really do any better than this, so I'm just going to accept my fate or my destiny. The fact that there's some part of you deep down that wants more, that wants to perceive more, to know more, to be more, and I think also to do more and differently. It's that part of you that is now kind of bumping up against those aspects of yourself that are trying to keep you safe, that are trying to keep you small, that are trying to just be like, look, okay, Claire, no, you can't go here because if you go there, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. And because we don't know, we're terrified. And because we're terrified, we don't want you going there. We kind of need to hold you back because if we don't hold you back, then you're going to go into this big unknown place that is really scary to us because we don't know what exists out there. What are the threats? What are the risks? What are all of these things that we are calculating that we can't calculate if we haven't seen it before? When I experience things kind of like what you're describing, for myself, I have the blessing of having a solid practice that I engage in on a regular and to the best of my ability continuous basis, that I put my trust and my faith in my practice, and that as I continue my practice, I will receive what I need to kind of get through my stuckness as I enter into it into these various phases. And so I think the key for you is that the questions that you can ask, what is right about this that I'm not getting? I got that one from my friend Elizabeth Trask. And also, what is right about me that I'm not getting? By asking these kinds of questions, you might be able to tap in more to those deeper aspects of yourself. Yeah, you know what? I think Bill might be onto something. Like, I think there's this part of me that's really kind of wanting to grow and change and develop, but then there are other parts of me that are absolutely terrified of that. Okay. And so then the question is, well, what can I do? What can I choose? What can I choose to either be or do differently in order to support my mind with its fears and doubts, and also to allow more of that deeper self, these aspects that are seeking growth and light and water and nourishment, to allow them to see a bit more of the light of day and to breathe the air in and to receive what's available. I have conversations with my material mind on a fairly regular basis now. Where as I see that it's sort of struggling, I make promises to it that I do my absolute best to keep so that it can trust me, where it's kind of like, okay, I get it. You're scared and you don't even want to go there. But how about this? How about that we won't go past this point unless we have a conversation about it? We will talk about it. We will have a conversation about whatever this thing is. And even that some of my commitments have even been before I go past this point, I am going to talk to you and we are going to talk about if it's okay to go on from here, where I can assure you that I feel deeply that we are safe, that we have support, even if we can't perceive it in the ways that we would prefer at this point. We have help, we have support, we have guidance, we have all these things available to us. And I can kind of remind my mind of how things have worked out, even when my mind was sort of terrified in the past. Hey, mind, remember that time you told me that this was going to be an absolute disaster and it worked out? Yeah. Okay, this feels the same to me. I know you think it's going to be an absolute disaster, but it actually feels good to these other parts of me. And so I would like to invite you to be open to the possibility that it might not be as bad as you think and that we will definitely survive it. My mind is like, okay, all right, I'll go along with this. I mean, this because of the fracturing of the various aspects of our being through engaging in the harshness of the human condition. This is where I'm at. I have to have conversations with myself that probably I'm sure that psychiatrists and psychologists and therapists would have a heyday with it. I don't know. I don't care. I'm a fan of what works. And I have found that my material mind has appreciated my willingness to engage it, to not just say, shut up, be quiet. You're stupid. No, your concerns are valid. These dangers and risks, they are potentially real, but I want to bring in other possibilities and perceptions and reminders of the times when you had me absolutely convinced that this was going to go wrong and it didn't. Okay. That's some of what's coming to me in terms of where you're at, where there's those parts of you that need comforting, they need assurance that we've gotten here together so far, and I'm not going to leave you behind, and we need to grow together. We need to change together. Part of it is dangling the carrot in front of my material mind too, to be like, look, if this thing works, we can take a load of work off of you. If this thing works, and this means these things are true, and so you don't have to be quite as hyper vigilant for threats and dangers, because we now have access to new forms of information and perception that we can put into the calculations that are different from what we have typically used in the past. That's what comes to me when I think about your sense of stuckness and maybe some of the possibilities for reassuring your mind of the possibilities and potentials for exploring things safely, gradually, in ways that do not have the potential to shatter your sense of self or your sense of what is real, these kinds of things where you can kind of be on this very gradual journey of growth and development, working with your various aspects to help them as they come up with challenges and difficulties and fears.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. It's very wise. Hmm.
Yeah, but there's no formula. I mean, you know that. That's why we're having this conversation. That's why
Yeah.
we talk, because you know that there isn't a magic pill that you can swallow. There is no red pill, these things that people say, oh, accomplish this in 3 easy steps. No, you're a unique individual, your own life experiences, your own things you're dealing with. Sure, there are similarities, there are themes, there are archetypes, there are all these things that we can relate to and that can help us. But the bottom line is you and your journey is your own, and part of the fun and the challenge of it is you kind of be like, what am I, what are we doing here, what are we going to do to get some progress and movement on this thing? And I guess what's coming to me now is just the importance with these things, if I haven't conveyed it sufficiently, of kindness and gentleness, patience, humility when we are dealing with any aspect of ourselves, whatever it may be, whether it's the material mind or the biological body, the spirit, mind, and body, the soul and the soul mind, these various aspects of our being. If there's anything that's true about the human condition, about the fabricated world of human invention, it is its harshness, its darkness, its hardness, all of the barriers and limitations and structures and things that are embedded within the awfulness of what humanity has co-created and perpetuated for millennia. And the gifts that we can give ourselves are things related to love, to unconditional love, to care, to concern, to compassion, again, gentleness, kindness,
Mm-hmm.
humility, patience, these kinds of things that we can give ourselves instead of beating ourselves up or being harsh with our minds. And why can't you just get with the program? How often do people say that to actual people in their lives, let alone say it to themselves? Why can't you do this? Why don't you just do this? Blah, blah, blah. Why don't, why? It's like the wrong questions. The better questions are the ones that my friend Elizabeth shared with me recently. What is right with me that I'm not getting? What is right about this? What is good or right about this that I'm not getting? What are the gifts in it? What are the possible potentials or opportunities that I'm not seeing? Because instead of focusing on those possibilities and potentials, I've chosen to align myself with the human condition that is always concerned about what is wrong. What is wrong with me? What is wrong with others? What is wrong with the world?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
not to say that wrongness isn't a thing, but given that it is so available in the human condition, I'm with my friend. I would like to just say, well, because again, I mean, if the universe is a universe that is based on rules and laws and principles that actually function, that are intended to bring about greater harmony, then if I'm just experiencing some kind of disharmony, some kind of limitation or lack, something where energy is not flowing in an enjoyable and pleasant way, then even the awareness of those things is part of the gift. I don't think it's okay to ask for what I need. Hmm, that's a very interesting choice, right?
Right.
Because if I'm not willing to ask for what I need, then I am making all kinds of other things way more important than what I need.
Wow. Yeah.
And I mean, that's like the tip of the iceberg. I'm not willing to even ask for what would be helpful or loving to me. No, I won't ask for that. And maybe I have beliefs and aspects of my identity that have to do with these human concepts of deserving and worthiness that have nothing to do with who I really am, but they have something to do with things I took on from other people. Again, in all honesty, I took them on. I accepted them as my reality because it seemed to be the safe way to go. And yet,
Wow.
when we prevent the flow of love, of blessings, when we don't allow ourselves to receive what we need or to share what we feel compelled to share with other people, we're in our own way, we're stopping the flow. And it's not a judgment, it's just a fact. It's like if I'm going to stop the flow of love and light and energy and goodness and truth through myself toward others or from others toward me, then I shouldn't be surprised when I experience pain and suffering, whether it's in my own body, in my relationships, in my life, in my work. Take your pick.
Yeah. Hmm.
in these conditions that the material mind is not supposed to be this harsh. It's not supposed to be this cruel taskmaster, but that's kind of what we've turned it into, because in these conditions we have all these ideas that, well, strong people, they do these things, and smart people do these things, and they don't do those things. And we have all these labels and all these ideas that have nothing to do with reality, that have nothing to do with love or self-care or compassion. They have more to do with ideas related to success or achievement or popularity, influence, power, wealth, these sorts of human values. They don't last.
Right.
Any thoughts or anything that you'd like to share before we
Um,
wrap?
I think I want to work on being okay just exploring and
Hmm.
not having to define things. I know that goes back to what we were talking about in the
Hmm.
beginning.
Yeah, yeah,
But I'm still thinking about that. Yeah.
yeah. I feel like this conversation has been, at least in some part, my attempt to encourage you to do just that. Because deep down, you know that there's no system, that there's no program that someone can give you that's going to take care of everything. And
Hmm.
so, and that's my priority for myself, is my relationship with Source. That's the game for me, because I know that Source is interested in me being the most expansive and awesome version of myself that is possible, and that is not some kind of final target. It's actually a progressive development throughout all of eternity, and that's what Source desires for me, and that's what I know the deepest aspects of myself desire as well. And so how can I do that if I'm going to be like, oh, I'm X. I subscribe to this religion or this wisdom tradition or these practices that other people told me I should do, or whatever it is, that all of these things, they're not going to help me to grow and develop the way that I know I'm supposed to, because most of this stuff has all kinds of human naughtiness attached to it, you know? Because if I pray the way that a church tells me I'm supposed to pray, but is that the way that I, as an individual, unique being made in the invisible likeness of the source, is supposed to pray? I find it hard to believe that there could be a perfect match between anyone else's prayer practice as it is taught or experienced and my own. I just don't see how it's possible. So I need to discover what works for me. And I think you being open to your own exploratory journey, you being willing to be like, look, I'm not going to place labels on this. I don't care if you think it's new age. It resonates for me right now. So get over it. I don't care if it even sounds religious. That's your concern. It's not religious to me. This is deeply personal and spiritual to me. And if you see it in these ways, that's you. That's not me. I'm open to it being that. And maybe you don't have that clarity yet, and that's fine. But I'm a fan of what works. And so if something's working, keep doing it. And if it's not, keep looking.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
true. That's very true.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I heartily encourage you to continue with your explorations. I encourage you to, and everyone listening to this, I think there's much more to be gained through openness, through humility, through curiosity, through heartfelt vulnerability than is to be gained through concluding, deciding, seeking certainty and security in things that do not come from source, because people are clinging to all kinds of things that other people make, saying, oh gosh, I hope this is it. But whatever aspects of this were just made up by people, they're going away. Like whatever it is, a religion, a wisdom tradition, doesn't matter. The truth remains, and everything else that is not truly of the truth is going to go bye-bye at one time or another
Mm.
on that journey of explorations, finding those things within yourself, those things that you reach out for that you can get a sense of security and stability with, not because it gives your material mind a sense of certainty and control, but because you feel it deeper down. We can engage our minds and help them to come along with us on the journey, so that all of our parts are kind of progressing together, but that our minds can eventually kind of get the sense of this deeper thing you're talking about. I think there's something to that, and it seems to be working. Yeah, let's keep going. We'll go gradually, but we'll keep going, and we won't need to be stuck quite the same way because our minds are kind of coming along for the ride because we're listening to them, because we're loving them, we're accepting their fears and their doubts, even as we have these other aspects of ourselves that are like, ooh, let's go, like we can kind of bring everyone along for the ride that way.
Hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Wake Up Call for the Soul with Bill and Claire. May we love ourselves and all more and more with each passing moment. We wish you the very best and highest. Until next time.